tell us about yourself and how you got into this and all the things.
Yeah, so my name's Amanda. I own Beyond the Ledger. What we do is bookkeeping and advising for different things like travel and media. We're doing just travel agents at first, and then we realized there's a lot of crossover. A lot of travel agents do their own social media, and there's write-offs and things like that are so complicated and nuanced and new. So we kind of encompassed everything. So yeah, I'm a mom of two. My daughter's a freshman in college. My son is just started 6th grade. So we have two kind of new adventures on our hands in my family. But I really love the business world. I love helping agents. I feel like they're my people as well. We understand each other. And, there is a lot of nuances to travel agency, bookkeeping and finance and all of those things that we've come to understand and want to share that knowledge with people. So yeah, that's us. I have a presentation too. I can share my screen and kind of go through when we're ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, yeah, let's get to it.
Yeah. Let me share my screen really quick. I do best when I have a visual because then I am not just droning on and on, which I can do easily.
I like that. I can too. Yeah, our little 20-minute call we were supposed to have and signing up with you turned into, I don't even know how long.
I love that though. That's my favorite. Okay. So can you see my screen?
I can.
Perfect. Okay. So like I said, we do travel agents and agencies. We do host agencies, anything like that. Once again, I'm Amanda. So like I said, I've seen it over and over again. All of these people building great brands, I want to support them. I want to be able to give them knowledge, but a lot of times we're just winging it when it comes to money. And so that's why I decided to build Beyond the Ledger. I actually had a firm that I first started with that was for optometry. That's my background. For years and years, I worked in optometry and kind of just got, I don't want to say bored with it, but that's exactly what it was, bored with it. So we specialize in bookkeeping for travel and media businesses, from hosted agents, and then full host agencies. We have anywhere from a single, hosted agent upwards to multi-million-dollar agencies. And so we have knowledge kind of anywhere in between, and it is all very nuanced. We also do podcasters and creators. Oftentimes I see there's a lot of crossover there. And so we help them stay organized, compliant, and confident. We really want your business to feel like freedom and not confusion. So we know that oftentimes if you're really good at something like being creative or hosting and planning trips, you may not necessarily love or understand numbers all the way. And so we want to be able to kind of bridge the gap. So a few things we're going to go over, just some basic bookkeeping things, and then I have a resource. And actually I'm working on another resource as well that I'll pass out here in the next week or so to Marie that she can give to everybody as well. But we'll go over setting up your books, tracking your income, making sure you're managing expenses and reconciling your accounts, making sure you understand your reports, and then helping you stay compliant and organized. So when you're first starting out, you can do a number of things. A lot of times we're in spreadsheets. A lot of times we're putting receipts into a drawer and hoping that we remember where the drawer is when it comes to tax time. We really do like things like QuickBooks and Xero. What the reason is that you're able to reconcile, make sure you're not overstating income, understating expenses, things like that. But we know that that's not reasonable for everybody. So we do really love and support spreadsheets as well, which is actually the resource we're working on right now, is a spreadsheet kind of specific to the industry. So once again, we want it to be simple though. So we like to help you automate where you can, connect your bank feeds. If you are using something like Xero and QuickBooks, instead of manually entering everything, we like to help support you or encourage you all when you're doing it on your own to connect your bank feeds, create rules and little recurring invoices. So for instance, Marie, when you have your agents coming on, you can set recurring, like when you open a QuickBooks or a Xero, you can set recurring invoices so that when they're paying you agency fees or you're paying something out and it's recurring, you don't have to keep doing it all the time. We don't want to make this a pain in the butt. We want to make it easy. So then setting up categories is the next most important thing, making sure that you're including your commissions for your expenses if you're a host agent, or for your income, your ad revenue, any brand deals that you may have, any client payments you get depending on your model and setup of your agency or your solo agency. Merchant fees, marketing, subscriptions, all of that being set up really accurately and clearly helps you know where to categorize these things. So you're not just sitting here confused all the time, like where does this specific transaction go? But making sure you're not also breaking it down too finitely where you're like, I have a category for paper and then I have a category for pencils. We just want it to be general, but also detailed enough so that if you feel like you're spending more money than you're making, you know where you're spending that. And then let's see, cash versus accrual. So the two models of accounting are cash or accrual basis. So most creators and agents that are hosted use a cash basis. That just means that taking into consideration that all of the money that you're bringing in and taking out is accounted for when it happens. Accrual, which you may hear when you dig a little bit deeper, is a little bit more complex. And usually for host agencies, what it does is take into consideration money that you're going to receive or you're going to be spending rather than what you have received or have spent, like cash. No, that's a little complicated, but when it comes down to it, when you do get to the more complicated stuff and you're in an accrual base or a need for accrual basis, that's probably when you should hand it off to somebody anyways. So just so if you ever hear those words, I wanted to clarify what they mean. Cash is spending in the moment or receiving in the moment. Accrual is adding up money you should be spending or should be receiving. Like I said, we want to track everything, record all commissions, payouts, any sponsorships, and affiliate income. Always make sure to include the client name, the supplier, or the brand in the memo so that you can go back and make sure that you're accounting for everything. You don't want to unexpectedly get a 1099 and not have claimed that income and then have to go back through and amend taxes. And if anyone's ever had to do that, that's such a pain. So knowing your income types. So supplier commissions, if you are hosting your own agency or you're just a solo agent, making sure that you know what supplier is giving you what money. So at the end of the year, you can make sure that they're not overstating what they've paid you. Planning your service fees. So some people do charge service fees, not always, but making sure that that's a separate income type and monitored separately because that is going to look different when you're doing taxes at the end of the year. If you do any ads or brand revenue, making sure that's separate. And then if you have, so I've added Patreon in here. Some people, like I said, host podcasts to help support their business, making sure that those are separate from affiliate and bonus incomes. Also, subcategories are really important, like having, for instance, a supplier commission category with subcategories of, Disneyland, Disney World, if you really want to see it broken down to see what income are you getting from where. That's really important, whether you're a host agency or a hosted agent.
So can I ask you a question real quick, Amanda?
Yes, of course.
So with this part right here,
Mhm.
if we're like still a smaller agency and we're not ready to go to, like what it, okay, let me think about my question for a minute.
Yeah, no.
Go with my brain. I'm telling you, we start talking about this stuff and my brain just goes all over the place. Like
I understand.
But I love your presentation. This makes me so happy because I see how your brain works with this stuff. And it makes
Yeah.
me feel so happy that you're so organized that I know, like, I can trust you to be like, here's what you need to do.
It's my strong suit.
I love it so
That's what
much.
I got.
So, if somebody is a newer agent, doesn't have a lot of complication yet, and is starting to track this kind of stuff, I looked and I think QuickBooks was like $40 a month.
Mhm.
So is like a spreadsheet type of thing good for this? Like, what would you give somebody just starting out a really strong basis to grow from so that when they come to you, they're not a hot mess?
Yeah. So we are working on a spreadsheet right now
Okay.
that I would love to be able to give as a resource. Also, so I would say the threshold for starting to utilize something like Xero or QuickBooks, Xero is typically cheaper. It's also typically a more simplified interface. It's a little bit more modern. QuickBooks is typically what we use because it does have a little bit of complexity to it, but it is a little bit more expensive. So take into consideration when you're looking at those two softwares. But yes, when you are first starting, a spreadsheet is perfectly fine. I would say when you're hitting about $50,000 income, whether you're hosted or a host agency, that is when I would really start looking at a little bit more of a complex software. There are so many resources. We provide training. There's training online. You can look it up. It's not as complicated as it feels like. So, but yes, I would say the threshold at the very, very minimum, 50,000, then I would start utilizing a software so that you're not missing anything.
Okay, I love that. Thank you.
Yes, of course, of course. So, like I said, I'll share that spreadsheet. We're working on it. I want to make it kind of Disney and cute and personalized. So we're putting final touches on it. But yeah, and then I have a couple resources, one in the end here, and then another one that we'll send over. I'm going to kind of do a review at the end. So. Okay, so expense management, the most important part, like we love the income part, but we want to also make sure that every single expense we can write off, we are writing off. So common ones, travel, that's always a huge question. And I will show you at the end a little bit of the resource that we're going to give and kind of explain how that's going to help. But travel, subscriptions, marketing, production tools, any continuing education software, and I didn't put it on here, but family. We are always traveling with family, often, unless we are traveling with our agencies or alone, which sounds lovely. I've never done that. I'd love to. So going through and making sure that those are correctly written off, not too much, but you're not missing the opportunity to claim your kiddo that's actually helping you record videos and social media and things like that. Not forgetting that we can pay them, and it is a tax write-off for us. So keeping that in mind. Going next to keeping your receipts. So we utilize in our agency or our firm HubDoc. It's just a little receipt capture software. It's free to, or it's for anyone. I think it's about $10 to $15 a month. But if you're heavy on receipts or you really are wanting to utilize some sort of software that makes things easier or be really diligent about keeping these things, but not keeping a paper receipt with you, HubDoc is great. You just snap a picture. It gives you an email address. You send it to that. And then if you are also attached to a Xero or a QuickBooks, it will connect the two things. So you'll be able to connect it to your, like I said, Xero or your QuickBooks, and then allow that receipt to show up with that expense on your software.
Can I have a question about receipts real quick?
Yeah.
So if you have everything, like, I have Relay. If everything is in my Relay, do I still need receipts, or is it enough to keep a documented screenshot of that or something?
Yeah, this is my rule. Anything over $50, that is obscure. So if it's like, a lot of times any weird meals, like if you're obviously traveling and obviously eating a single meal, that is, but if you're going and saying you host a few of your friends and you guys all go to an agency event together or something like that, if it's a bigger cost, I would keep that receipt. But you do not need every software receipt, every receipt that you get, but anything that you may think that the government might be like, what? This doesn't make sense. And you want to be able to justify. Can I be completely frank with you? Do I keep all of my receipts? No, I am much better at telling people to keep their receipts than I do, because in the end, most of the time we do have record of it, but it is my responsibility to tell everybody to keep their receipts, and I will tell them that. So,
so you're saying though, even though you're capturing it to categorize it, you still should keep those physical receipts.
If you have some sort of software like HubDoc or a picture of it on your phone, I don't feel like it's necessary. No.
Okay.
To keep the physical ones. They're such a pain. So what I like about like something like HubDoc, for instance, being able to keep it and then attaching it to the QuickBooks allows me to, what if I do want to break out costs? Like what if I bought, oftentimes we're going with our children or our grandchildren. What if you bought yourself something to, like, say, review on social media? I bought this item. I want to show people. That is a write-off. But then you also bought your kiddos a shirt and some suckers that you're not going to utilize. Then that allows you to be able to break it apart too. But yes, yeah. Does that make sense? So anything you want to break apart, anything you want to track that may be questionable, but not everything. And do not keep the physical if you know you have a copy of it, of one of the obscure ones. Like I said, you spend $5 at the popcorn cart. Does it even cost $5 anymore? I don't think so, probably. But you spend $5 there, you don't need that receipt, I'll be completely honest. But if you have anything that you think they may ever ask you, diligence is going to help keep you out of trouble. So.
Okay. And what is the difference in using something like Google Drive versus HubDoc?
So HubDoc is easier in the sense that if you are utilizing QuickBooks or Xero, it attaches. It also is will like automatically file things away for you. So HubDoc will pull the name on the receipt and say, okay, this is the Emporium. And that it will pull that and automatically file it into a file for you under that vendor. So it just takes a little bit of the manual work out of it, as well as, like I said, connects to your QuickBooks or your Xero if you're utilizing that. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. So along with expenses, keeping receipts, everything like that, making sure that you're actually utilizing that information, not just for tax time, but actually looking at it and saying, how can this serve me? How can I best use this information to help my business? So looking at recurring costs, how often are we spending money on software we totally forgot about? Let's utilize the information that we're getting from keeping these records and actually make actionable choices that will help profit your business. You know, sometimes I one time was paying software twice for the same software because I signed up under different emails. I was like, what am I doing? But I caught it within a month because I review my finances at the end of every month. So like I said, you don't need 3 CRMs. You don't need a random app. And you want to make sure that, yes, you are spending money vacationing, but it's also not free money. It's still money you are spending. So even though you get a tax write-off, you always want to still monitor those things. And
so are you going to go over what a review looks like? Like when you say you do a review, like what do you look at?
Yeah.
Do you just...
Well, I'll touch on that for sure. When we do, when I go over the reporting part, and then I can always answer questions. And I also am going to, on the follow-up paper, provide a link to give you guys, anyone that wants to sit down and have a call and just say, hey, like, can you answer these 10 questions for me? Just to sit down and have that information. So any specifics, I'm happy to sit down. But I will show you a little bit with reviewing your financial reports. Perfect. So the next portion, this is harder to do when you are utilizing a spreadsheet, but is account reconciliation. Essentially, if you have a Xero or a QuickBooks, it's going through and reconciling your accounts. There's literally a button that you push that would allow you to say, okay, this is the amount on my statement, whether it's credit card or your checking statement, and then making sure that that balances. So once again, you're not double depositing. You're not saying, oh, you made double income than you thought you did, or you're not missing anything that you actually can write off. And so not in here, but something I want to stress is, if you have an agent, or if you have a business, whether you're a hosted agent or a multi-million-dollar business, the importance of keeping and having a business account are undeniable. It's really important because then that makes this process, 1, 10 times easier, and 2, way more compliant. So if you ever did get audited, you would have the information you need. They're not questioning why you're, commingling your funds. So always, no matter what stage of business you're in, have a separate account. Marie uses Relay. I use Relay. It's a very great financial system. What it does is allows you to, it's really just intuitive. It's more modern and it's really easy to use. It also allows you to use like little bucketed accounts. So you can have an account for travel. You can have an account for, your basic operating expenses, things like that. So I will also add that onto the resource because I really love Relay. So once again, how to do it. Pull your statements, make sure things match in QuickBooks or in Xero, investigate the differences. So if it's saying to you, hey, you say you have $500 in your checking, but I say, as the use software, whether it's QuickBooks or Xero, you actually have $400. What is missing? What is happening? So you can't, like I said, do this as simply in a spreadsheet because there's no balance accounted for each account. But if you had one account, for instance, you can then reconcile that account, if that makes sense. So as long as you're tracking by month, you would be able to reconcile money in and out. But it gets a little more convoluted if you have like a credit card and then also a checking account. I'm a huge advocate in the travel agency to utilize or the travel industry to utilize credit cards if you're responsible with them, because you can get a lot of rewards. So oftentimes people have more than one account. But if you are on a software where you have to reconcile, like I said, over that $50,000 annual threshold, reconcile every month so you're not at the end of every 6 months or every quarter or the year like, wow, I wish I did this every month, because it's much quicker to do once a month than it is sit down at the end of the year and remember everything that you want to remember. Okay, so there's some reports. Whether you have a software or you have a spreadsheet, you can get information from those different reports. If you have a really good and thorough spreadsheet, like I said, the one that we're working on, that will allow you to look and categorize different things and look at what you're spending. It'll also let you see month over month what you're spending on software, which should be fairly similar, right? As long as you're not doing annual software expenses and you're doing monthly, it should be the same every month or similar, and if you didn't add or take away anything. What that allows is, like I said, to see that one of the review points, and this is what I do. I pull a profit and loss, or I would pull my spreadsheet and say, what did I do last month? What did I do the year prior, if I have that information? And it will also allow you to see, okay, what are my recurring costs that are pretty predictable, like software and things like that, that are upcoming? Do I have the cash flow for that? Balance sheet is a little bit more complex, but it shows how much money you have usually in any given time. This is only if you have QuickBooks or Xero, but it allows you to see what you have on your credit card that you owe, money you have in the bank, things like that. It's not as often used as profit and loss. It's a little bit like one step more advanced, but it is nice to see if you pull that report to see how much money you have sitting there and how much money you owe, if it's on a credit card or if you for some reason had a loan with the bank, something like that. Cash flow is the third most complex report, but this literally tracks your cash flow. What money went out of your account for a given period of time, what came in. That's it. It's very simple. Not categorized, not broken down, but just money in, money out. So you can see, are you making more money than you're spending? Once again, why you should care. It'll help you spot your slow seasons. So if you're really diligent about tracking on any platform, you'll be able to see, oh yeah, every February things are really slow. I need to make sure that I'm not, I have enough money to cover February for those slow months, because there are going to be months possibly that you are making less than you're spending because of the nature of the business, right? You, depending on your income, may be spending like a lot more and then getting a huge chunk of income at the end of the year or in January or during the summer, things like that. It also let you see which trips, clients, or platforms are bringing in the best return on investment. So if you are spending money on ad revenue, specifically for Disney World, for instance, if you're separating out your income by category, you'll be able to see, am I making enough money through Disney World trips that it covers as much the amount of money that I'm spending on my ads? So having that categorization, keeping diligent, is going to help you actually review and understand that. And then it also, like I said, it helps you make confident business decisions without just guessing. So I really am a huge advocate of looking at your business. Like I said, whether you're a multi-million-dollar host agency or you're just a host working on your own book of business through a hosted agent, I feel like it's really important to look at your business like a business. It is its own little running mini factory, and it needs money to keep going. So staying organized and compliant, like things like receipts, making sure that whether you're using Xero or QuickBooks or a spreadsheet, you're updating it weekly, not whenever chaos hits. So not when, oh, it's tax time. Oh, it's, I need to review this because I haven't done it in 9 months. Just doing it weekly will really make even the most money adverse or number adverse person, make it just a slightly easier. Making sure that your client money from business money is always separate. I know oftentimes with Disney, it's not like a typical travel agency like we think of, where the customer pays you, then you pay the supplier. It's a lot different than that, but I did add that in because there is relevant sometimes. So making sure that if you are collecting money for anything and it's not going directly to the supplier, that you're keeping that separate from the money that you are running your business with. And then staying compliant. So making sure you're tracking that 1099 income and you're tracking it. So say you work for a hosted agency, you want to make sure you're tracking it. And so they're not saying, oh, you made 75,000 and you're like, no, I only made 60,000. I don't want to spend taxes on $15,000 more. So making sure you're tracking that so you can make sure that whoever is giving you 1099s at the end of the year is actually accurate. You can help, it'll also help you make your estimated quarterly taxes. So a lot of people don't know, but if you make over a certain amount of money, and this is different for every state, it's also changes all the time. So I'm not going to give specific data because, like I said, tax law changes constantly. But estimated quarterly taxes do a couple things. One, allows you to pay your taxes so you're not just holding that money in your account. And two, it allows you to, depending on the amount of income that you're making, it will sometimes they will penalize you for not paying quarterly. Oftentimes under $100,000, you're okay. But just keep that in mind that you may be required to pay estimated quarterly taxes or you get a small fine. It's not a huge fine, but it also just helps that you're not holding that money in an account and then surprised when you get your, $10,000 tax bill at the end of the year. So, or if you don't do estimated quarterly taxes, I do love the idea of having a separate little bucket account in your account, like your checking account, like for instance, Relay, where you put money for your taxes away. So I do that. Relay allows you to set up anytime you get money into your account, it automatically siphons off into smaller accounts. And so I put 20% of my income into a quarterly or a tax account so that when at the end of the year, I'm good. Oh, and when I pay quarterly taxes as well. And then, like I said, keep receipts for deductible travel or content creation expenses. Travel and content creation are going to be the two biggest things that the government's going to ask you questions about. If they ever do, they typically don't, but you never know because they're kind of newer, right? Content creation is not something that the IRS has totally nailed down. There's a lot of gray areas. So if you can justify any expense, and I try to justify literally any expense for my clients, then having that receipt for those odd things will help. Once again, when you are over a certain amount of income, or if you just really hate numbers, hiring a bookkeeper that understands travel, making sure you, or what helps a lot, making sure that you have a tax pro who understands creators and travel. CPAs are often very old school. I'm not a CPA, I just do the bookkeeping portion, but they often do not understand newer business models. Make sure that you get someone that kind of does, that's a little more modern. And it's not about doing it all, it's about doing it correctly. So making sure that if you feel overwhelmed, you really are outsourcing those things if you are over a certain amount of money annually. So I did add here a resource. You can use the QR code, or like I said, I'll do a printout at the end that will also have, that I'll give to Maureen sometime next week that will go through all of this. I'll put the slide deck on here so you guys can review it again. But this is a tax write-off guide for theme park enthusiasts specifically. So what can I write off if my kiddo is holding the camera? Can I write this off? I am very risk. I'm okay with risk when it comes to tax write-offs. It gives you a little bit of a guide on like how risky is this, how risky is that. But in my opinion, if you're putting your kiddos or someone else on your social media, they are doing marketing for you. Find a way to write it off. Find a person that understands newer tax laws and newer tax or newer business models, and ask them questions. But this resource will allow you to kind of get a little bit more of an idea. And at the end, there's a little cheat sheet that says, hey, I had lunch with an agent. How much of this is a write-off? And then it'll say 50%, 100%, not a write-off at all. So it's really nice. I'm really actually proud of that resource because it does simplify things and kind of break down some of the write-offs, which is the part that everyone's most curious about, right? Like I said, it's good for anybody. If you have any questions, this is our email. I'm happy to sit down, have a call with anyone. Typically we call it like a discovery call or a strategy call. And so you can find our website there if you want to schedule your 30-minute call. This is no obligation to work with us. If you just literally have a list of 10 questions, I'm happy to answer them. My goal is genuinely to help this industry succeed because I love what you guys do so much. We need the world to be a little more fun. And you guys make it more fun, and I want to support that. So, and then our Instagram is there as well if you want to follow us. And that is it. I don't know how to undo this now. Hold on. Okay, there. So let me make this bigger. Perfect. I know I ramble and I talk kind of fast. So I will, like I said, add all of these resources to just a little cheat sheet at the end. I also think I'll give you guys like categories that will help you categorize your expenses. And so I will add that as well. But that will help you just know, hey, is this even a write-off? Does this even make sense? That write-off guide will help break those things down for you. I'm a true believer. Let's be completely honest here. The extremely wealthy people find a way to write off everything. We can too. That is my goal, is to have you know the little cheats and tricks that they use so that they have no tax liability, so you can reduce yours too. So yeah, that is my goal.
Amanda, that was incredible.
Good. I'm glad.
You are my angel.
That was
I'm glad. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. That makes me happy. I like I said, I really love what you guys do. I've kind of played around with the idea of like creating our slogan to be like bookkeepers for the curators of fun, because I love podcasting. I love traveling. I love social media. I want to be able to help this be a thriving business. I want everyone that, whether you're a mother or, a single person, whatever, be able to create your own business, because that wealth means freedom. And I think that freedom is everything in life. And so, yeah, that's exciting for me.